The US and UK raised questions about patriots administering Hong Kong. But patriots administering principle is a common practice in the world. Countries including the US and the UK have strict criteria on patriotism and loyalty, and clear requirements for public officials. For example, U.S. law stipulates that government officials should pledge loyalty to the U.S. Constitution and law. People shall not be allowed to serve in the U.S. government if he or she advocates the overthrow of constitutional form of government, or participates in a strike against the U.S. government, or participates in an organization that engages in such activity. U.S. criminal law also clearly stipulates that people who committed crimes such as rioting and treason shall be incapable of holding any office in the United States. Both the House and Senate of the U.S. Congress have independent ethnic committees, which are responsible for monitoring and investigating whether members of the Congress have committed acts of disloyalty to the United States. In U.S. history, 18 members of Congress have been expelled for disloyalty to the country. The U.S. federal government is in charge of the improvement of the country's electoral system, with specific election rules, and ensures that only the patriots could be elected. As a unitary country, the electoral system of each region is decided by the central government of Britain. The US and UK have a large number of electoral legislation. In the past 2 years, members of the Congress have introduced more than 40 bills to improve the electoral system. On the same day when China's top legislature announced its agenda for improving Hong Kong's electoral system, the US House of Representatives passed a For the People Act to improve the electoral system and ensure election security. At present, Britain has enacted more than 200 acts, orders, and rules relating to the election of members of the Parliament, mayors, police, and crime commissioners in England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. I'd like to say that by accusing China of violating Sino-British Joint Declaration, the UK side has turned a blind eye to facts. China administers Hong Kong on the basis of Constitution and basic law rather than the Sino-British Joint Declaration. The key to the Joint Declaration is to ensure that China resume its sovereignty over Hong Kong. After Hong Kong's return to China, the UK has no sovereignty right, has no supervision right or moral responsibility on Hong Kong. It has no qualification and legal basis to interfere in Hong Kong affairs. During the 150 years of colonial rule under the Britain, Hong Kong does not have any freedom or democracy. Governors of Hong Kong at the time were chosen and appointed by London. Both the Public Order Ordinance and the Society Ordinance during the British rule imposed draconian restrictions on assembly, procession, and association in Hong Kong. Hong Kong people back then didn't have the freedom to take to the street. The fact is, the central government of China is protecting and facilitating democracy in Hong Kong. After its return, Hong Kong starts to enjoy freedom and become its own master. The central government is advancing the process of democracy along the track of Constitution and basic law, and have made great efforts for this. In August 2014, the NPC Standing Committee further stipulated the roadmap and timetable for selecting Hong Kong SAR's chief executive and forming LegCo through general elections. It was those anti-China and destabilizing elements who intentionally disrupted the process and vetoed the proposal for universal suffrage. As a result, the aim of selecting the chief executive and forming LegCo through general elections were hence not realized. During Hong Kong's turbulence over the proposed amendment bill in 2019, anti-China destabilizing forces inexplicitly colluded with external forces in an attempt to instigate a color revolution. They are openly or secretly supported by the West to conduct violent criminal activities such as jamming the traffic, vandalizing, arson, attacking the police with deadly weapons, and attacking ordinary citizens. Some even secretly meet with foreign diplomats in Hong Kong. They wave UK or US flags and require military of those countries enter Hong Kong. The electoral system improvement will better ensure extensive and balanced political participation of Hong Kong residents and serve the interests of all social strata, all sectors, and all parties of Hong Kong society. It will help improve the governance efficacy of Hong Kong SAR and lay a solid foundation for universal suffrage. You talked about China's obligations. I would like to say that the primary responsibility and obligation of the Chinese government is to ensure the territorial sovereignty and security in places including in Hong Kong. We need to ensure that no one can instigate color revolution in Hong Kong with the help of external forces or a political surrogate. Ensure that no one harms the social security, stability, and development of Hong Kong, and ensure that the people in charge of Hong Kong can truly serve the interests and well-being of our Hong Kong compatriots. I would like to say that the lawmakers in US and the UK are elected by its own people. They have no right to interfere in other countries' domestic affairs. They should do something for their own people. With the ongoing epidemic, many people are dying, and also the drug abuse, the homeless, the racism, the social injustice. What have those lawmakers done in terms of addressing those problems? What they should do is to listen to the call of their own people and care for their well-being and manage their own business. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China, and Hong Kong affairs is China's internal affairs. The Chinese government has resolve and confidence to safeguard sovereignty, security, and development interests of the country and prosperity and stability in Hong Kong. It has evidence to ensure continued success of the policy of one country, two systems, under which the people of Hong Kong administer Hong Kong with a high degree of autonomy. Any attempt to meddle in Hong Kong affairs is doomed to fail.